Good morning. My name is Menika Patakandla, and I am one of today's worship associates. We welcome you to our worship service this morning. We're so glad to have you with us today, whether you're joining us in person or virtually, whether you're here for the first time or you've been attending longer than you can remember. Here at Horizon, we welcome people of all faiths and of no faith in particular. Whoever you are, wherever you are on your journey, you are welcome among us.
So today, people of all ages can remain in our sanctuary to create a multi-generational worship service together. Children in kindergarten and younger may spend part or all of the worship service in the nursery this morning if they wish. Additionally, please join Horizon for Christmas Eve candlelight worship at 3 p.m. on December 24th, and join us for our sharing service on Sunday, January 1st. Today, if you'd like to purchase some of the art that surrounds our walls as a holiday gift, you can do so, and you can take it home today. So please see Kent about that after the service. Thank you. Our call to worship this morning comes from the writings of the Reverend Rebecca Parker, and this is called A Winter Blessing. In the shadowed quiet of winter's light, earth speaks softly of her longing, because the wild places are in tears. Come, she cries to us, kneel down here on the frosty grass and feel the prayer buried in the ground. Bend your ear to my heart and listen hard. Love this world, she whispers. Distill peace from the snow and water the cities with mercy. Weave wonder from the forest and clothe grief with beauty. Rest in the rhythm of the turning year. Trace the bending arc, rounding the curve toward justice, and vow anew to do no harm. The winter trees stand watch, haloed in the last gleams of the slanting sun. Glory sings here. Heaven echoes the call. Repeat the sounding joy, and make your life an answer.
The Nights of Midwinter by Reverend D.C. Fortune. We light this chalice as a symbol of our free faith. We light this chalice to remember the miracle of the oil that burned for 8 days. We light this chalice to mark the nights of midwinter. We light this chalice as we wait for the sun to return. Please rise in body or spirit and join me in the words of our affirmation. Love is the doctrine of our church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve humanity in harmony with the earth. Thus do we covenant together. Please remain standing for our opening hymn, Deck the Hall with Boughs of Holly, number 235 in the gray hymnal.
at this time, I'd like to invite up our narrator and our two helpers for today. They can get their costumes right there. The winter solstice will take place on December 21st. It is the day we experience the longest night, yet anticipate the lengthening days to come. The winter solstice celebrates the rebirth of the sun, a return to life, and the changing of the seasons.
In many Celtic traditions, there is the enduring legend of the Oak King and the Holly King. These two mighty rulers fight for supremacy as the wheel of the year turns each season. Let us now hear their story, which is the first of two in today's worship service.
A long time ago, there were two gods who were brothers and princes in a faraway land. The one brother loved the sun and the warmth and spending his time in the woods and fields wearing a crown made of oak leaves. And he's helping his brother.
That's because their mom is here.
The other brother spent his time indoors near the fire, where all was quiet and cool and dark, thinking great thoughts while wearing a crown made from holly leaves.
Now, in those days, the wheel of the year was turned by the brothers' beautiful mother. And every day was exactly like the next, half a day of light and half a day of darkness. But then one day, their mother announced that she was weary and would be leaving the world. Before her departure, she spoke these very wise words to the princes. "Rule wisely, my sons." "You are both important in this world, and both should reign over the land together."
The brothers ruled as peaceful kings for many years, but as time passed, they forgot their mother's advice and began to wish to rule the entire year in their olden fashion. The Oak King said, "I want the land to be bright and hot and sunny the entire year so I can go walking in the forest and listen to the birds and the bubbling streams." The Holly King said, "I want the land to be dim and cold and quiet the entire year so I can sit and think without distractions." Tensions grew.
Until one day, the Oak King was laying by a stream and gazing up at the clouds, and he said to himself, "I don't need my brother to help me turn the wheel of the year. All he does is sit in the dark by his fire. Surely I'd do it better all by myself." At the same time, the Holly King, who was sitting by a roaring fire in the castle considering things, said to himself, "I don't need my brother to help me turn the wheel of the year. All he does is lie about by streams gazing at the clouds. I'd do a better job without him." The Oak King overheard and cried out, "I challenge you to a fight, my brother. Whoever wins will turn the wheel of the year as they wish." "Agreed," laughed the Holly King. "Let us duel."
They raised their swords and began to fight. They fought, and they fought for a whole day. Steel clanged on steel. Slowly, the Holly King began to gain the upper hand. He became stronger and stronger as night fell. The Oak King became weaker and weaker. Then, just as night fell, the Oak King could fight no more. He sat on the ground and yielded to his brother. The Holly King cried out, "Ha, I win. Let winter reign forever." And he returned to the castle to reign over the world.
But after some time had passed, the Oak King revived a little, using his sword as a crutch. He pushed himself to his feet and staggered into the woods, where the earth took him into her bosom and nursed him back to health. 6 months later, on the summer solstice, the Oak King returned and challenged his brother to another fight. This time, it was the Oak King who won and the Holly King who returned to the earth. But then 6 months later, the Holly King was healed and challenged his brother again and won. And the cycle continues. They still battle to this very day.
The legend goes that every year at the summer solstice, the brothers battle and the Holly King wins. Then the days get shorter and colder as the Holly King ponders matters by his fire in the castle. But on the longest night of the year, the winter solstice, when they fight and the Oak King wins, the journey towards the light and the warmth begins again.
While the Holly King rules, the crops are harvested and stored for winter. The plants go to sleep, and the animals seek shelter from the cold. The world rests and spends its time in quiet waiting. While the Oak King rules, we sow crops. Plants grow and animals bear their young. The world is alive and spends its time growing and rejuvenating. Today, we celebrate the return of the Oak King, who brings with him longer days of light, warmth, and growth of things anew. And we also honor the Holly King because the world needs dark and quiet and a time for rest. We know what the brothers do not. They are two sides of a whole. Neither is complete without the other, and it takes both to turn the wheel of the year.
Thank you.
In this same way, it takes all of us to sustain Horizon, each in our different ways. The offering to support the ministries of this church will now be joyfully given and received.
Now it is time for our second story. All who are here today, adults and children alike, are welcome to join in on the fun and be part of the cast to tell the story. So at different points in the story, we're going to ask volunteers to come up and play the parts of the characters. No need to speak, no lines to memorize. The masks and the props are up here in the front row, and I'll show you where they are. All you'll do is hold your mask in front of you and bring up the prop when we tell you to here at the pulpit. And then after your part is over, you'll be sitting on the steps over here, and we'll give you directions, like I said before. Oh, because we are telling the story together in the spirit of goodwill and play, there are no mistakes. Like I said, we will let you know where to stand and where to sit. So I hear paper bags. If you did not get one of these with the snowflake in front of it, would you raise your hand and the ushers will bring you one? And I noticed, like, our pianist did not get one. There we go. Your bag will have up to 2 items that will be needed during the service. And just wait from the cue from us to learn what to do with your item. And so go ahead, why don't you open your bag now and see what your items are, and then place them to the side and get ready. And remember, the ushers are passing out the bags if you did not get one. And yes, the choir may take part too. Okay, it seems like we're set. So let's set the stage for our story together. It is winter, and a snowstorm is approaching our little forest. Our prop mistress is here to help, and I believe we have a second one that will come forward soon. So if you have a white snowdrift, get ready. This is a snowdrift. Okay, so now the snowstorm is hitting. If you have a white snowdrift, would you please come up to decorate our trees, branches with snow? Pam will assist you. And if you don't want to come up, you could hand it to somebody to take up for you. While the snow falls on our tree, let's set the scene by singing "In the Bleak Midwinter" with the lyrics projected behind me. As our story is about to begin, I'm going to invite Bear to come forward. And let me tell you about the volunteers we need right now. We need someone, adult or child, to be Lynx. squirrel, blue jay, and badger. So if you would like to play one of these 4 parts, would you come here and stand by your basket? Excellent. There are lots of parts to play, so if we don't have enough right now, we can get more later. All right, I think we're ready. Oh, stay right there, please. Go ahead.
Once upon a time, there was a bear. Bear was born in the spring and had not yet experienced her first winter. She grew quickly during the warm days of summer and was almost an adult. She left her mother and siblings to strike out on her own, and as the days grew shorter and cooler and the leaves turned from green to orange, she found a cozy cave in which to sleep away the winter. One particularly warm winter day in late December, Bear roused from her hibernation, as bears often do, and lo, the world was white from a recent snow. Concerned, she cried out, "Where have all the colors gone?" For she had never seen such a white and wintry world before. But the wind only answered with silence.
The wind wasn't entirely unhelpful, however. The wind carried the bear's cries to her friends in the forest. And one of these friends was Lynx. Lynx had a basket with him. Lynx had a basket. His basket was full of orange leaves. And he took it to the snow tree and the bear. And he said, "I bring these leaves so we remember the warm glow of fall and the burning sunset of an evening sky." Okay, Lynx, come here. Can you sit down right here?
Next came Squirrel. Squirrel carried scarlet berries and laid them softly at Little Bear's feet. They glistened crimson against the snow. Squirrel said, "To remind us of flowers and fruits from the forests and fields."
Blue Jay flew down with feathers in his beak. He came to the little bear in the snow tree and he said, "These feathers are reminders of the blue summer sky and the rolling waters of the river."
From deep inside the frozen forest, Badger appeared. He declared, "Nature's finest fur, brown like the rich earth beneath the snow and white like summer clouds." He added velvet fur to the growing collection on the snow tree.
We're going to invite Badger to sit on these steps also. Thank you. Now, at this time, look in your bags. If you have the gift of autumn leaves, of red berries, blue feathers, or velvety fur in your bag, we're going to ask you to come forward and decorate the snow tree with the gifts from Lynx, Squirrel, Blue Jay, and Badger. And while we place the decorations, we're going to sing "The Holly and the Ivy."
week we take time to pause, to notice what is happening in our lives, in our hearts, and in our minds. We take some quiet time to let our thoughts slow down. So take a breath and let it out slowly. Know that whatever is true for you, sadness, loss, excitement, celebration, you are not alone. You are held securely in the bonds of this spiritual community. We'll share now a time of silence, the joys and sorrows of our community, a spoken prayer, and then join in singing our responsive hymn, Spirit of Life. I invite you to join me now in a time of silence. We have both sorrow and joy to share this morning. We share in sorrow with Elliot. Mary Jackson passed away recently at the age of 84, and her memorial service was yesterday. We also share in joy with Rusty and Sarah. Josh passed his driver's test yesterday. And Elliot starts driving lessons tomorrow. Loving God, Spirit of life, mystery in which we live and move and have our being, draw near to us and hear our prayers this morning. We gather here always in a spirit of gratitude, gratitude for this day, for these people, for this music, for laughter, for this opportunity to seek joy with others. We give thanks for the pink and orange sunrise, for the cool winter air this morning, knowing that the ability to experience this season is a gift. In these days of solstice and celebration of Hanukkah and soon Christmas, help us to remember that light comes and goes, that darkness comes and goes. Help us to remember that we are part of a wheel that keeps on turning, even when it seems like this season will last forever. Remind us that there is always something new on the horizon. Help us to slow down in this busy season, to breathe deep. Help us to try not to get caught up in all we still need to do, and instead allow us to soak in the magic. Point us toward balance, toward honoring the facets of light and darkness that give us beauty. May it be so. Amen. I invite us to remain seated and join in singing our responsive hymn now, Spirit of Life.
Yes.
continue with our story, I'm going to ask Bear to come back up to the chancel and take their place. And animals, please stay in your place because we're going to need you in a little while. But we have some new characters that are going to appear. The characters this time are rabbit, reindeer, raccoon, and fox. And last of all, moose. So if you would like to play one of those parts, would you stand in front of the chair of the place of the character you'd like to play and wait for your cue? Maybe we could have an assistant. Excellent. It looks like we're ready for our story to recommence.
So Bear looked up as her friend Rabbit came hopping through the soft snow and spread fresh green shoots before him. Yes. He said, "My offering is to remind us of the green of spring, of new life after the sleep of winter."
And now we need reindeer and their basket. Reindeer move slowly forward through the snow with colorful rocks piled high in a basket. He said, "Here is the color that will endure forever, as purple as the mountains and the rolling clouds of thunder." And then he placed them in front of our little forest.
Raccoon ambled over a snowdrift laden with yellow cobs of corn. She said, "I carried all I could, so we won't forget the yellow corn that grows all summer long in the fields beyond the forest."
And now Fox came through the snow. Fox brought icicles that sparkled silver in the frosty light, like raindrops in the sunlight. She said, "And these will remind us of long summer days full of light and life."
So if any of you gathered here have the gifts of green shoots, colorful rocks, corn, or icicles in your bag, would you come forward and decorate the tree with these gifts from rabbit, reindeer, raccoon, and fox? While we place the decorations, we'll sing "O Tannenbaum." Lyrics will be displayed on the screen.
of our animals join Bear up here by the snow tree. Our animals from the first half, and now all of you too. And would you face the people in the seats so we can see your lovely faces? And did we get a volunteer to be moose? I didn't, oh, we've got a moose, excellent. So let's keep going with the story.
Bear and all the other animals smiled as they stood gazing at the glorious tree. The colors were back.
Then out of the woods lumbered Moose, bringing a bright golden star. He proclaimed, set this star high upon the tree. Let its light shine out to all the creatures of the forest, that they may gather to celebrate the glory of the season and the beauty of peace and friendship at this special time.
Aww. As the day passed, the animals celebrated and talked and laughed with Bear. Oh, but as the daylight waned, one by one, each took their leave as they sought their nighttime lairs. So good night, raccoon. Good night, lynx. Say good night to Bear. Good night, Bear. Good night, Bear. Good night. Good night. Good night. Good night. Good night, Moose.
What? Cried Bear as the friends said goodbye. But we haven't seen each other in months, and why is it getting dark so soon?
Night fell, and Bear was left alone with the snow tree. As it became darker and darker, the tree's beautiful colors and reminders of warmer days waned until the forest faded into a soft blur of grays and blues. Left alone in this strange land of cold and snow, Bear felt herself beginning to tear up when Owl came. Owl came on silent wings.
I am here, exclaimed Owl. I have brought a black gem with silver flecks to represent the glorious night sky filled with stars. Owl noticed Bear's tears. Have you been crying? Asked Owl.
Bear answered yes while rubbing her eyes. I miss the warmth and sun and light. I don't like how everything is cold and dark now. I feel afraid. I can't even find my den to go back to sleep.
As a creature of the night, I love the dark. And tonight is a special night. It is the winter solstice, the longest night of the year, said Owl. Seeing that this did not cheer Bear, continued, yes, the world is very different now and must seem quite strange to you, a child of summer, but it is beautiful in its own way. The glistening snow, the quiet, and the stars, oh, the stars. Have you seen them? Asked Owl.
Bear looked up for the first time and saw that the winter sky was ablaze with silvery points of light, a night sky Bear had never seen through the haze of summer. Then her eyes moved to the forest and its quiet beauty and tranquility. Finally, she saw the snow tree, the snow and stars faintly illuminating its branches in the darkness.
Oh, it's lovely, exclaimed Bear as she caught her breath. I never knew the dark could be so beautiful.
Yes, replied Owl. Without the dark and the cold, the spring sun would not seem so bright, nor the summer days as sweet.
Bear gazed upon the frozen landscape and again took in its beauty. She no longer felt afraid. Suddenly, she spied the entrance to her den in the dim starlight. A wave of sleepiness overcame her.
I must sleep now. Good night, Owl, and thank you.
Farewell, said Owl, and flew away into the night.
With one last glance at the snow tree, Bear made her way to her den and curled up for a long winter sleep. As she dozed, her thoughts drifted to all the colorful reminders her friends brought to cheer her earlier that day, and her heart was full. Although she longed for the warmth and sunny days of spring, the beautiful snow tree, cloaked in silence and silvery starlight, lingered in her dreams all winter long.
Friends, let us gaze at our snow tree and take the next few moments to remember the truths that the solstice brings to us, that the darkness is a part of life and holds its own beauty, and that the light and color always return. If you were a part of our pageant today, would you stand or wave so we can give you a round of applause? Thank you, everyone. So now we're going to settle in for a short listening time. We're going to start with a reading by someone named Wendell Berry, and this is called To Know the Dark. He writes, "To go in the dark with a light is to know the light. To know the dark, go without sight, and find that the dark too blooms and sings, and is traveled by dark feet and dark wings." Our experience of worship this morning has been one of movement, one of singing and telling stories, and having all of our people participate. And I think this joy has done our hearts good. The story of the Oak King and the Holly King is sending us a message of balance. In other words, when we try to only do one thing, when we have only one perspective, when we have too much of something, even if it's something good, it doesn't always serve us well. But it can take a long time to learn this, even for the grown-ups. And some of us are still learning. You all may remember my story about the moon that I've shared before, about not being able to sleep as a kid and my dad taking me out in his truck to check on the moon to make sure it was still there. And I love that memory. I always find myself turning back to it as the days get shorter. And I think it tells a common story. As part of the reason for our routine, part of the reason I couldn't sleep was an inability to let go of the day, to be in transition, to allow darkness to take over when it needed to. So the winter solstice is often called the longest night, as the day part will be short and the night will feel really long. And in ancient times, the solstice was seen by some as being about both the death and rebirth of the sun. As Reverend Range Homme writes, "There were reflections of life all around me that, were it not for the darkness of night, I might never have had the privilege of knowing. Some beauty can only be noticed in the darkness of night." And he continues, "As we approach the winter solstice, that lesson is just as true and important to our lives. On December 21st, in the Northern Hemisphere at least, we begin our shortest day and prepare for our longest night of the year. And it's a turning point as we transition from fall, a time of harvest, to winter, a time of rest. And it celebrates a returning point as we honor the rekindling of the light that warms our world in the increasingly longer days to come. So during the solstice and in the winter season in general, many of us tend to hear this narrative that we need light to somehow drive out or make the darkness less felt. But I wonder, what are the implications of this imagery of light against dark? What are the implications for folks of color, for folks who are vision impaired? We've talked about this before, but darkness is just as critical as sunlight to our survival in this life. And so are times of challenge and trial, painful as they may be. We need uncertainty, times when we cannot be sure of our footing for the way ahead, to grow our souls. We change in the dark. Things grow in the dark. As Reverend Range reminds us, our solstice time can and should be an opportunity to relish the beauty of what comes alive in the dark. This longest night is a time for us to, as the poet Wendell Berry reminds us, find that the dark too blooms and sings, and is traveled by dark feet and dark wings. In this longest night, we have the gift of time to deepen our awareness of what is always around us in the light, but soars and sings in the dark. During this longest night, we are given an extended chance to shift our attention and intention to appreciate the sounds, sights, smells, activity, and interconnectedness that only finds their fullest form in the infinite richness of the dark. This either-or binary thinking about light and dark does not help us understand the meaning in this celebration. And so moving beyond that, I have been drawn instead to the concept of a wheel. Just like the mother in the story left her sons the wheel, saying, "I am tired now, and you must turn the wheel of the seasons." In the same way, the wheel of learning and understanding is ours now too, and we must help it turn. There are a lot of ways to think about this creation in which we live. We have the story of the two kings, the snow tree, the concept of a wheel, these stories about ancient people awaiting and attending to the death and rebirth of the sun. And these are all a part of the same story, about people looking for meaning in the rhythms of their days, looking for meaning in something outside of themselves, knowing that the sacred was as close as a bit of holly or a ray of sunshine on their faces. And these things are true across time and death and the space between the stars. We are always looking for power and meaning in old rituals, hoping they can tell us something new. So what does the solstice have to tell us? I think it tells us about the cycles of life that keep going, even as our lives might change year after year, the constants that provide us comfort in their sameness. The solstice tells us about what we need to live, both energy and sunlight and time to rest and rejuvenate. It tells us something about what our souls need to grow. It tells us about balance, about trying to do too much of one thing and not enough of another. It tells us about what might have to end, to die, to be reborn in a different way, to survive. And it leaves us, as the best things do, with more questions than answers. And so I wonder this morning, what are you grieving? What rebirth are you celebrating? What might have to end in your life to make room for something new to take root? Where do you need to find balance? Where have you been taking in only sunlight or only darkness? How will the wheel continue to turn for you and for us all? May it be so. Amen. And so to celebrate our joy at the return of the light, let us sing our closing hymn, "Hark, for the Sun is Returning." And lyrics can be found on the screen behind me.
we extinguish this flame, but not our commitment to Horizon's mission to welcome radically, love boldly, grow spiritually, and serve courageously. This we do because we envision a beloved community filled with compassion, helping all to thrive in a just world.
Okay, friends, so we're going to try something a little different for our benediction this morning. So inside your bag is a snowflake crafted just for you today by a church member. So I invite you now to take it out and hold it in front of you. Take a moment to imagine your snowflake filled with love and goodwill. And then I'll invite you to offer your snowflake as a blessing to someone near you, and they may offer you theirs as well. So be blessed and be a blessing, and go in peace.